Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 19, Text 28. Yam Yogino Yoga Samadhina Raho Dhyayanti Lingad Asato Mumukshaya Tasyaisha Daityarshavaha Padahato Mukham Prapashyams Tanum Utsasarja Ha. Yam Yogino Yoga Samadhi Naraho Dhyayanti Lingadasato Mumukshaya Tasyaisha Daitya Rishabha Padahato Mukham Prapashyam Stanum Utsasarjaha. Yam Yogino Yoga Samadhi Naraho Dhyayanti Lingadasato Mumukshaya Tasyaisha Daitya Rishabha Padahato Mukham Prapashyam Stanum Utsasarjaha. Yam Yogino Yoga Samadhi Naraho Dhyayanti Lingadasato Mumukshaya Tasyaisha Daitya Rishabha Padahato Mukham Prapashyam Stanum Utsasarjaha. Yam Yogino Yoga Samadhi Naraho Yayanti Lingadasato Mumukshaya Tasyaisha Daitya Rishabha Padahato Mukham Prapashyam Stanum Utsasarjaha.
Yam Yogino Yoga Samadhi Naraho Dhyayanti Lingadasato Mumukshaya Tasyaisha Daitya Rishabha Padahato Mukham Prapashyam Stanum Utsasarjaha.
Anyone else? Technical difficulty here. Okay, let's see real quick. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Whatever was saved was gone. Okay. Actually, I have really beautiful verses lined up, so I don't know if I will be able to pull up all those, but we'll try our best. 3:19, 28, right? Yes. Okay, so anyone else like to chant, please? At least one more we had.
Yam yogino yoga samadhinaraho.
Yam yogino.
Markandeya's ready.
Dhyayanti lingad.
Awesome. Yam yogino yoga samadhinaraho.
Yogino yoga samadhinaraho. It was a book. Hare Krishna. All the forces are trying to interrupt.
Dhyayanti lingad sato mumukshaya.
Dhyayanti lingad sato mumukshaya.
Tasyaisya daitya rishabha padahato.
Tasyaisya padahato.
Mukham prapasyam sthanam utsasarjaha.
Mukham prapasham stanum utsasarjaha. So let me see if I restore, if I get the other ones. Oh yeah, cool. Right, so word to word meaning. Yam, whom, yoginaha, the yogis, yoga samadhina, in mystic trance, raha, in seclusion, dhyayanti, meditate upon, lingat, from the body, asataha, unreal, mumukshaya, seeking freedom, tasya, of him, esha, this, daitya, son of deity, rishabha, the crest jewel, pada, by a foot, ahataha, struck, mukham, countenance, propasyan, while gazing on, tanum, the body, utsasarja, he cast off, ha, indeed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Brahma continued, he was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis, seeking freedom from the material bodies, meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Deity's son has cast off his mortal coil. Please repeat. Brahma continued, he was struck by a forefoot of the Lord, whom yogis, seeking freedom from their unreal material bodies, meditate upon in seclusion in mystic trance. While gazing on his countenance, this crest jewel of Deity's sons has cast off his mortal coil. The process of yoga is very clearly described in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said here that the ultimate end of the yogis and mystics who perform meditation is to get rid of this material body. Therefore, they meditate in secluded places to attain yogic trance. Yoga has to be performed in a secluded place, not in public or in a demonstration on stage, as nowadays practiced by so many yogis, by many so-called yogis. Real yoga aims at ridding one of the material body. Yoga practice is not intended to keep the body fit and young. such advertisements of so-called yoga are not approved by any standard method. Particularly mentioned in this verse is the word yam, or unto whom, indicating that meditation should be targeted on the personality of Godhead. Even if one concentrates his mind on the Bore form of the Lord, that is also yoga. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, one who concentrates his mind constantly in meditation upon the personality of Godhead in one of his many varieties of forms is the first-class yogi. And he can very easily attain trance simply by meditating upon the form of the Lord. If one is able to continue such meditation on the Lord's form at the time of one's death, one is liberated from this mortal body and is transferred to the kingdom of God. This opportunity was given to the demon by the Lord, and therefore Brahma and other demigods were astonished. In other words, the perfection of yoga practice can be attained by a demon also if he is simply kicked by the Lord. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinatarinam Vancha Kalpaturugashta Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this long fight between Hiranyaksha and the Lord in the form of boar, which is also called as Varaha avatar of the Lord, the boar incarnation of the Lord. And we see the demon lying here, dead. Although from the previous verses, it may seem that, because the verse before this, it said that he was slapped by the Lord. Karnamulam, very interesting word, Karnamulam. Karna is ears and mulam is the root of the ear. And in India, we have this kind of a slang or very famous phrase, "Kaan ke niche bajana." I don't know if anybody understands Hindi here. So, "Kaan ke niche bajana" means to slap somebody under their ears so that they kind of wake up and come to reality. And you know, it's more like saying, "Oh, you want some beating? You know, better come in line," or you know, things like that. Or I remember incidents one time. This is very common probably back in India, or not so much now, because now all the taxis and rickshaws, they are metered. Right? Before they used to, you just bargain with them. Before you even sit in the rickshaw, right? You bargain from Mathura station to, let's say, Vrindavan. They will say maybe 500 rupees, but actually it's the half price because they know you're tourists. And then you bargain, okay, only 200, I'll give you 200. But when you reach your destination, they will say, "Oh no, you got to pay me 300 or 400 or 500. And then I remember my friend, he was a local, and he said, "Kaan ke niche du kya?" You want to slap under your ear, like under the root of your ear, which means come to reality. And they will submit because they know, okay, 200 is okay. So this is the same thing in the sense that the Lord is kind of, in one sense, awakening this demon, by slapping in under his ear. And one may think that actually he died because of that, but now Lord Brahma has come into the scene and he is clarifying that how this demon died. And how did he die? It says, Tasyaisya Daitya Rishabhaha Padahato. So the pada means the foot, or in the translation it says 4 foot. The 4 foot hata means he was struck by the 4 foot of the Lord. And interesting, the Daitya or this demon is addressed as Rishabhaha, means the crest jewel. Just like Prahlad Maharaj, when he is glorifying his father, what does it say? What does he say there? Anybody remember? Asurya Varya Dehinam, the best of the demons. Right, so even in the demons they have categories, the best of the demons. So the best of the Daityas, although he's a demon, but still he's addressed as the crest jewel of Daitya, or the son of deity. Tasyaisa Daitya Rishabhaha Pada Hato, that he was struck by the 4 foot of the Lord. And Brahma is saying that he is so fortunate, right, to being struck by the feet of the Lord. And that's why Brahma is saying, Mukham Prapashyams, that when he is leaving his body, Tanum Utsasarja, Tanum means the body, and Utsasarja means giving up. And what is he doing? Mukham Prapashyamsa. Prapashyamsa means seeing, and Mukham, Prabhupada translates here as countenance, or the face of the beautiful face of the Lord. So he left the body seeing the beautiful face of the Lord, right? And being struck by the 4 foot of the Lord, what does that indicate here? Prabhupada gives a very beautiful, or even in the beginning of the verse, it says, Yam yogino yoga samadhina raho. Yam yogino yoga samadhina raho. So the yogis, what are they doing? In their samadhi, they are meditating, right? It says dhyayanti, meditate. Dhyayanti linga, then what are they meditating for? From the freedom. It says mumukshaya. Mumukshaya means seeking freedom from this asat, this body which we are having right now in this material world is called material body, which is asat because it's temporary, right? There is as soon as we are born, there is already the time bomb fixed in this body. Right, there's an expiration date, few years, few months, few weeks, few days, even certain bodies. So that's why it says, this linga, asato, this is unreal. So these yogis, they are meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord in order to get rid of this material body. And that's what Prabhupada starts the purport with. He says that, very interesting, the process of yoga is very clearly described in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said here that the ultimate aim of the yogis and mystics who perform meditation is to get rid of this material body. Right? In the modern days, that's what even Prabhupada says, in the current times which we are living, everywhere you go, you hear this word yoga, and why do people go to the yoga institutes or yoga workshops or yoga classes? Even they pay the money to go there. What is their aim? What is their goal? To have some fit body, right? The body should be fit, and which is no problem, but that's not the main aim of the yoga. Gati, that's not the goal of yoga, right? So Prabhupada mentions here, he says that in one sense what we are doing, everything what, going to the yoga class or whatever, we have got it completely wrong. He says here, yoga has to be performed in a secluded place. Is that a secluded place when you go in Chinatown in some yoga club? Not at all, right? So much chaos in Chinatown. Not in public or in a demonstration on stage. Interesting, I was watching this one documentary, probably it was Netflix or somewhere, by this Vikram, what is it, Vikram Yoga. Vikram, right? Vikram Yoga, and kind of strange, they have this, they put all these students in a room and it's super hot there, so you just do few asanas and you'll be sweating, right? But I was watching in the documentary, everybody else was sweating, but this guru, this Vikram guy, he was on a very high seat and he had all his air coolers or air conditioners blowing on his body, so he was comfortable. But everyone else was sweating, and they are actually paying him such big money to teach all that yoga and all that. So we lose the very purpose of the yoga. And what is the real? It says real yoga aims at ridding one of the material body. Yoga practice is not intended to keep the body fit and young. Such advertisements of so-called yoga are not approved by any standard method. Particularly mentioned in this word is the word yam. So interesting word, because the word starts itself with the word yam. So what that yam means unto whom. Unto whom they are meditating. The yogis, they are meditating at the lotus feet of who? Anyone? Of course, Krishna, right? Yam yogino, yam yoga samadhina raho. And a very beautiful verse in the 12th canto, 13th chapter, 1st verse. There's one line, it says, Prabhupada always quoted that line, and let's see if we can find that. 12:13:1. It says here, Dhyana avasthita tadgatena, the third line, Dhyana avasthita tadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yogino. So, what does that mean? It says here that the perfected yogis see within their minds after fixing themselves in trance and absorbing themselves within him. So interesting, I was watching this very beautiful talk by one of the devotees back in Bangalore, and he gave a beautiful description that we say one of the names of Krishna is Achintya, right? We heard of this name, Achintya. We have some devotees by that name too, right? Achintya. So what does that mean, Achintya? Anybody knows? Huh? Inconceivable. So Krishna is inconceivable. We cannot conceive him, right? In the sense that we are unable to understand him. But at the same time, when we are practicing this process of bhakti yoga, or here we are waking up early in the morning, coming from Mangalarti, starting from 4:30 a.m. until evening, we are doing so many things and trying to understand him. So it's like, before even starting the project, it's failed, right? You cannot understand him, so what are we doing here then, right? Just like I went with my friend for the driving test, and he prepared everything, because I was kind of training him in one sense. And then at the last moment, what happened was, because the what do you call it, inspector, right? Inspector, the DMV, he had appointment for the driving test. So the inspector, he said, okay, put on the light, right light and light, left blinker, right blinker, lights, put in parking, and put in reverse. So that's what she said, reverse. But then he reversed completely. I mean, she just wanted to see the reverse lights, but he reversed. And then she said, you know what, you're done for today, because you reversed and you almost, run over me, so you can't go any more further. Right? And so you got to get, 2 weeks after appointment, whatever. So even before he could go for his test, he was failed. So similarly, we are trying to understand that which cannot be understood, that which is inconceivable. So how is that? So then, very interesting, Krishna says, he gives the answer for this in the beginning of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. There is this very beautiful verse, it starts, let's see, chapter 7. Actually, even before we come to that verse, the text one, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So he's saying completely opposite here. He's saying that, oh, you can actually know me, right? And then he's going to go give us the process of how to know him. But before that, before we come to that, interesting, the 6th chapter, because in 6th chapter there's this conversation between Arjuna and Krishna, that Krishna is explaining the yoga system, or basically dhyana yoga or ashtanga yoga, that you have to have a particular seat, not too high, not too low, and then what do you call the focus your what do you call eye? The eye should not be open completely, not be closed, and then focus on the tip of your nose and so many things, right? Or what is atyahara? You know, you shouldn't be eating too much or eating too less or sleeping too much, or just balance, right? Yuktahara viharasya, that there has to be recreation too, and all these different things. And then he comes to the point where he says, you also control your mind. You have to control your mind. And Arjuna is saying it's so difficult, there's that famous verse, Chanchalahi mana Krishna pramati balvadridam, that this mind is so chanchala, so obstinate, is always running here and there, right? Chanchalahi mana Krishna, oh manaha, and oh Krishna, this mind is so chanchal, so obstinate, it's difficult to control. Chanchalahi mana Krishna pramati balvadridam, it's very balvad, it's very strong, and dridam, very difficult to control. And he gives very interesting example there. How difficult, he says, Tasyaham nigraham manye vayu eva hi sudushkaram. So vayu is wind. He says at a point I can control the wind. Is it possible for us to control wind? But Arjuna, taking his stature and taking his capabilities, he says I can control the wind at a time, but I cannot control the mind. Interesting. And then Krishna says, oh no, you can do it, what is it, abhyasena, and by practice and by detachment you can control the mind. And then Arjuna says, oh, what if, I'm a failure, if someone is failure in this yoga system, if they are not able to complete, then Krishna gives the alternative, oh, don't worry, it's guaranteed, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe, that you will get an opportunity to take birth in a Brahmin family or aristocratic family where you can continue the yoga process. And then interesting, this last, when he concludes the last, concludes this chapter, the 6th chapter, he's saying this verse. He's saying the yogis, he says, tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi. So what he is saying, that the yogis are higher even than the tapasvis or the ascetics. And then Jnani mato adhikaha, and even higher than the Jnanis, or those who are seeking knowledge. And he says, Karmi bhyascha chadika yogi, the yogi is higher even than the karmi, right? We use often this word karmi within our society. Oh, they are karmis, right? As if, they are some outcast or something, but karmis, they are good people, they are, God-fearing, they worship God. But the only thing is, they are worshipping God for some material desires. And of course, thanks to them that we are getting all the donations, because they're working hard and making some money, and they're coming, because they're religious and God-fearing. They come and give donations. So thanks to them. So karmi bhyascha, but the only thing is that they are after material desires, how to make this life happy, not like the yogis who don't want this material body, unreal, asatal, right? But the karmis are, no, I want this life very happy, and also to do some good karma so that my next life will be better even, or go to heavenly planets and so on and so forth. But Krishna is saying that under all circumstances be a yogi, because a yogi, like there's a tapasvi, there is a jnani, there is a karmi, and the yogi is even higher than all these three, right? And what is yogi, or one who's practicing yoga? And what is the definition of yoga itself? Just doing some asanas, some exercises. What is the definition of yoga? Simple yoga, to connect, right? To connect, the connection of what? The individual soul with the supreme soul, or the Brahman, or the Atman, right? And then Krishna says, interesting, in the next verse, Yoginam api sarvesham madgater antaratmanaha, that he says there are so many all these yogis, but then who is the best of all these yogis? Let's see, Yoginam api, and actually this verse Prabhupada indirectly mentions is the current purport. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yuktatamo mataha, and of all yogis, the one with great faith, Shraddhavan bhajate yo mam, with Shraddha, one who is bhajate, one who is worshipping me with Shraddha. And yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana. Antaratmana, what does that mean? In the core of their hearts. So that kind of yogi, Krishna says, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and he is the highest of all. And Krishna, he's not forcing this statement, he's saying, Mataha, that is my opinion. And who can counter Krishna's opinion, right? Can anybody counter his opinion? Krishna is saying, oh, this is my opinion, very casually. And interesting, and purport of course, Prabhupada quotes one more verse from Bhagavatam. He says, Ye yesham purusham sakshad atma prabhavam ishwaram na bhajanti avajananti sthana bhrashtaha patantyadaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primal Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. So this word bhajati, it says, Shraddhavan bhajate yomam. So one who is worshipping me with Shraddha, so that yogi is the highest, right? And that's why in this current verse it mentions about worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord, or when this demon gave up his body, having the darshan of the Lord, and that is the perfection of yoga. Right? Because anta kalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram, that at the end of the life, whoever remembers me, they will come back home, back to Godhead. Smaran muktva kalevaram, very beautiful verse. Actually, it's up in the 7th chapter, a little later. So that's the beginning of the 7th chapter, that Krishna, although, is, and interesting, he's saying that, oh, how are you going to understand this knowledge about me, or how can you understand me? And he says here, the verse ends with saying, Tat Shrunu, means by hearing. And the whole chapter you will hear how one can understand, or one can conceive the inconceivable. Here, text 1. Maya Saktamamna Partha Yogam Yunjan Madashrayaha. Under my shelter, one who's practicing this yoga, right? Asamshayam means there is no doubt. Samagram Mam. And how do we understand him? Do we understand him just partially? He says, no, Samagram, complete, full. Yatha Gyasyasi Tachshunu. Tachshunu means now here. So this process, this whole Bhakti Yoga process, the beginning is Shrunu, or the Shunvanti, or to hear. The personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pritha, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. So that is the goal of practicing any, or especially the Bhakti Yoga, to have the darshan of the Lord, the countenance. That's what the word used here is, says Prapashyam Sutanum Utsarya. Prapashyams Mukham. Sorry, Mukham is countenance. What does countenance exactly mean? Just the face or the whole body, or?
What is it?
Countenance. Huh?
Countenance?
Yeah, what does it mean exactly?
Overall presence.
Yes. Okay, because actually the mukham means the face, right? But then if Prabhupada writes here, it has countenance, which means the entire beautiful form of the Lord. And interesting, Prabhupada ends the purport, he says here, the opportunity was given to the demon by the Lord, and therefore Brahma and other demigods were astonished. In other words, the perfection of yoga practice can be attained by a demon also, if he's simply kicked by the Lord. So the demons, they need the kick to come to the realization of Krishna, and the devotees, they need the Ashirwad, they need his hand on their head, right? But for the demons, it's opposite. You just need a kick from the Lord's forefoot. So at this point, if any questions, because today is also the appearance day of Sri Ramanujacharya, I would like to read just a few lines. I mean, it's his life and his achievements are, you can go on and on for hours, but I'll just read a few lines. But before that, any quick questions or comments on what we did on this particular verse, or what we talked on this particular verse? It's interesting. Everyone should read this 6th chapter and then the 7th. It's a nice flow of how Krishna is giving difficult things and then he's simplifying of how you can know him in the 7th chapter, and very beautiful. I saw one hand somewhere. Yeah.
Krishna struck Hiranyaksha from the root of the ear. If you feel underneath your ear, it feels like a real long.
Yes, I don't know if you have experience, but I have as kids when we were playing, and somebody slaps you, and as if you'll see the stars in the daytime. You'll be like complete white light, and you go. If somebody slaps you real hard, what happens? You experience that exam? No.
Actually, below the ear, there's a soft spot in your neck. And I'm thinking, I wonder if that's the spot you got. It seems like that could kill somebody by hitting that spot really hard, like one of the death blows or something.
Yeah, actually, it's more like more like a what do you call simile, or more like a metaphor. Because you're actually slapping. It means you slap somebody, right? And you can feel that slap.
Like a Will Smith slap.
Oh yes. Yes.
There's a really crucial nerve cluster right here at the corner of your jaw. It's a target for the crane side and stuff a lot.
Okay.
Or I can turn you off.
On-off button.
You can see the stars in daytime. Yes.
You speak about his wisdom too.
You had some question?
Yourself as a yoga teacher, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now in the world?
You're talking about myself?
Yeah.
Oh,
What
what?
impact do you hope to make in the world in the next couple of years?
What is the last part?
What impact do you hope to make in the world in the next couple of years?
I'm a very insignificant person, and what impact can I do? The impact is already done by Srila Prabhupada here. We just have to follow what he's saying, and it's all in his books. So we just follow, and then Krishna's plan, if he wants us to do some impact, we will do some impact. But at least we should do some impact on ourselves, our lives, so that we purify our existence and get out of this asato, this unreal body. That's what it says, asata, unreal, and get our original body, our original form of Sat Chit Ananda, eternity, bliss, and knowledge. So, does that answer? All right, we'll read this real quick about Sri Ramanujacharya. And interesting, if anybody gone to Sri Rangam in South India, in India, you've been, right? And it says that the body of Ramanuja is still there, the same body, although it's 1,000 years been gone, right? Like we make so much fuss about all these mummies and how they are being preserved, but without any chemical preservation, Ramanuja's body is still there in the temple of Sri Rangam. Almost 1,000 years.
Really?
900 something, so almost so. We will see that here when we read. It says, I think I lost.
The body's still there. I know someone that's where she's still really wow.
Okay, just real quick here. Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai. So I'm going to read this just few lines here, what Sri Ramanujacharya has in our offering to him. When the computer. So Rama Anuja, do we know who's Ramanuja? Anuja is the brother of Ram. So who's brother of Ram? Lakshmanji. So Sri Ramanuja, the most important philosopher, saint of Sri Vaishnavism, and one of the most dynamic characters of Hinduism, he was a philosophical as well as a social reformer, displaying a Catholicity that was nearly unparalleled in Hindu religious history before him. He revitalized Indian philosophy and popular religion so much that nearly every aspect of Hinduism has been influenced by his work. His life and works show a truly unique personality, combining contemplative insight, logical acumen, catholicity, charismatic energy, and selfless dedication to God. So that's his birth date here, somewhere 1017 to 1137. So yes, 1,000 years almost. And it says here, there's a verse here from Yadavachala Mahatmyam. It says, Anantam pratamam rupam lakshmanascha tatha paraha balabhadram tirthiyashti kalau kashchit bhavishyati. It is the same who was Adishesha first, Lakshmana after, and Balaram in the third, who was born as Sri Ramanuja in the Kali Yuga. The Kashchit is taken by our Purva Acharya as referring to Ramanuja. So this article is there and there are very tricky words, actually very complicated South Indian words, difficult to remember. So I'm not going to read the whole article, but you can go to Vaishnava calendar and read more about him. Alright, so we end here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagawatam ki jai, Shri Shri Ramanujacharya ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Hari Premanandi.